Hi everyone, I hope you are having a good time at Couchbase Connect. In this talk, I'm going to explain how you can visualize your travel history using Couchbase. And I'm Nitish, and in this talk, I'll go through how you can get your location history using some of these online services, and then how you can clean this data and put it into Couchbase, and then use some of the geospatial querying capabilities of Couchbase to enable you to do some analysis on your travel history. So the agenda is going to be quite simple. So I just explain what the problem that I'm trying to solve is, and then I'll explain a bit of the basics of geospatial querying and how it is done in Couchbase, and then I'll combine these two together and show you like a demo of how it is done. Okay, coming to the motivation. So I'm originally coming from India, and I've been living in Germany for like 6 years now. And one of the reasons that I like to live in Europe is you get to travel a lot, and it is one of the things that I like to do a lot. And it also allows you to explore new cultures, new different locations, different people, and all those kind of things. Another one of my interests is to analyze data. I like to do some analysis on different kinds of data that I have, mostly like analytics or do some data science applications or some visualization. And like last year, we had like a lot of time, especially with no travel allowed due to COVID restrictions and all those kind of quarantine rules and regulations. So I thought, okay, we have this option that Couchbase offers you the opportunity to do geospatial queries. So why not try to do something cool with the Google location history? So can you visualize your Google location history? The simple answer is yes. So if you go to your Google Maps timeline, you get to see like a list of all the locations that you have been to across your entire timeline that you were basically storing the Google location history. I use Google Maps a lot, so I have this Google location history turned on by default, and I've been collecting it for like 7-8 years now. And it's a really good way to go through some of this data. You might be wondering, is this data available outside of Google Maps? And the short answer is yes. Google allows you to download this data for private use or whatever you want to do. Not just this data, all the data that you have or that Google knows about you. Yeah. So Google offers the service called Takeout to download whatever data that Google has on you. And here in this case, I'm just downloading the location history data from Google. There are also online location history visualizers that would take this location history from Google and then put it onto a map and give you like things like heat maps and some kind of analytics there. In fact, I actually did like a short experiment on whether I can do such a analysis using timelines and like heat maps and histograms and some like images. And what I realized was, yeah, it's not that hard to do it if you have the data that you get from Google. I mean, this is all fine, good and well. I mean, it works pretty well. You can do things like heat maps of how often you visit a place, or you can see histograms on when you visit a place or what months are more active or what times are more active. You can also do things like have images that are relevant to this time or based on this data points. Yeah, I mean, this works quite well. But as you might notice here, there are about 350k data points in here. And if you have such a lot of data, it might be hard to do some fine-grained analysis. like one of the things which I wanted to do was like I wanted to have like a look at which countries I've been to, or like when I was at a country, for example, or like what are the cities that I visited. And if you take just the data that Google provides you, it's just raw GPS coordinates. It's pretty hard to get this information about a country or a city that is connected to those coordinates easily. And that is where that is where the geospatial queries capabilities of Couchbase are going to come into effect. Yeah, I'll go through this example in a bit, but yeah, before that, let's go through what geospatial querying is. I've been mentioning it a few times, but let's go through what it is formally. So geospatial querying is basically the feature which allows you to search for documents within a specified area around a location. And so what this allows you to do is, if you have documents with location data in them, you can search for documents which are relevant to a specific location. Yeah, I'll cover a bit more into details about what are the different search criteria that the Couchbase full text search allows. So full text search is the service which enables you to do geospatial querying in Couchbase. Okay, the most important thing in the documents is how do you store the location in documents. So the way Couchbase does it is, so there is like a geo field inside your documents which contain the location. And this location can be represented in a variety of different ways, like it can be strings with latitude, longitude, or a geohash, which is basically a hash of the latitude and longitude pairs, or it can be an array, in which case you have a longitude followed by a latitude, or it can be an object like lon lat or lng lat. So these names are important. Like if an object has latitude or longitude, for example, instead of lon or lat, it wouldn't work. Also, all the other fields are ignored for this searching geospatial query. Similarly, you might want to notice that the arrays are done in a different order than like strings, for example. Because if you don't do it in the right way, your outputs, the search results could vary quite a bit. Okay, coming to like how you can query for documents with location data. So there are basically two different things that work. So one is you need to specify a location which is relevant to your search. The other thing is mostly like an area around this location that you are interested in. There are different ways in which you can specify the location. So you can specify like key value pairs like an object, or you can specify like a string with lat and lon, or like an array with lon and lat, or a geohash. So all of them work same, like you can use any of them interchangeably. It's just that you need to keep in mind the order in which you are using it. The three main types of search that is provided by Couchbase is like this radius based search, rectangle based search, and polygon based search. So I'll cover the radius and polygon based searches like in quite a bit more depth than rectangle based search. But essentially rectangle based search gives you a rectangle which is the area that you are interested in, and you are searching for documents that belong within this area. Yeah. So you in rectangle based search you specify the top left and bottom right corners of the rectangle inside the location. Yes. So coming to radius based search. So in basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to specify location, and then it would give you all, it allows you to specify a radius around which, around this location that you are searching for. So the location you specify as mentioned in the previous slide, like you can use any of these different fields or different formats, and the distance you specify by using a number followed by the unit. So something like 5 kilometers or 50 meters or 500 meters. So for example, in this visual, you can see that like I'm searching for like 5 kilometer radius around Munich. So all this area around Munich would be covered in the, would be relevant for the search. So polygon based search is like a superset of the rectangle based search. So it allows you to specify an arbitrary number of polygon points or like points or locations, and it allows you to basically look for documents that belong within the area enclosed by these points. So the way you provide it is you provide a list of latitude and longitude strings for all the boundaries or corners that you are interested in. So for example, in this map, like if you specify the entire boundary of Germany, so all these points on the red lines, you can get the area enclosed by Germany. And using this, you might be able to find all the points which belong to Germany compared to other points. Yeah, one thing to note here is that, like in this example, I have 4 points where the first and the last point are the same. But in reality, you don't need to have it that way. So you can have like the, you can leave the last point out. The polygon is constructed, or like the full text search has the capabilities to identify the area of the polygon based on missing points. Okay, with the basics covered, so now we have seen what we want to do. Like we want to do an analysis of all the data points that belong to a city or country, and we saw what are the capabilities that we have in Couchbase to store its location data and also to search for it. So now let's try to put them together. Okay. Before we start to put them together, we need to do a bit of data modeling or adapt the data that we have or that we get from Google to suit it to work with Couchbase. Like before we do that, like, so this is like all the data that you get out of Google location history. So like you can see that there are different fields like timestamps, latitude, longitude, accuracy, which tells you how accurate these things are. Also it tells you information about activities that you might have been doing, like for example you are in vehicle or you are on foot. But I mean, all these are good features. However, I'm not doing anything much with the activities right now. So all that I'm interested in is, if I get all these latitudes and timestamps, can I do something with it? Can I figure out if some point is within a country or within a city? Yeah. Before we do that, there are some things to note here. Like if you notice, this timestamp is in milliseconds, which is not the most straightforward way you work with timestamps. So you need to convert it into a date time object. Yeah. Similarly, all these latitude and longitudes are also like multiplied by 10 raised to 7. So you need to divide them by 10 raised to 7 to get to the actual latitude and longitude values. Yeah, so another thing which you might remember from the earlier slide is that Couchbase looks for location data inside geo field. So here I arranged this data into a geo field and also convert all these data points into the corresponding standard values. I do this using a Python script but you can also do this using Couchbase nickel queries. Okay, so now we have like the data that we got from Google location history, and we cleaned it up and standardized it. Now we are ready to import this into the Couchbase cluster so that we can do some querying on top of it. There are multiple ways to do it. One of the easiest ways to do it is Couchbase import. So what this allows you to do is you can upload like a clean data that you have. So in this case, I use a JSON list format, and then you can specify what field you want to use as a document ID. And basically you can import this whole document. So what Couchbase does is it takes this file that you upload and it passes the whole data and shows you what you want seeing, and whether if it is something that you are looking for, or if it is not, you can change it. Yeah, and this process is also quite fast. It just takes a couple of minutes for a data of like 800k or so, 900k records. Okay, now that we have the data, clean data inside Couchbase cluster, we can now start to index this data and perform some geospatial query. So the way you do it is you can go to the web interface, and there's like the full text search. So here I'm not creating one, but creation is similar. So you can create an index where you specify all the different fields in which you have your location data. So for example, here my location data is in this field geo from the previous slide, and you say that it's a type geopoint, and here the searchable as is a field which you can use as an alias for the field. And yeah, you can create this index which would allow you to search for all these location data. There are a few more things here which I would like to highlight. For example, this index is basically to index this data, whereas store, what it does is it allows you to store this data along with the index, so that you don't need to do another fetch to get the document once you have something that is relevant. Yeah, I mean that's most of it about the search, the full text search index. You can also specify other fields, like for example here I'm also including timestamp, which is stored in this index. Yeah, one thing you might want to notice that the full text search with geolocations is not directly supported in the interface to search inside full text search. Meaning, if you are looking to search for a geospatial query inside the full text search window, it won't work. But you can do it using the SDK and REST API, and also in the nickel queries. Okay, with that, let's go to the use case. So what I'm interested in is I want to see locations within a country and also get locations around a city. So the locations within a country can be done using a Polygon based search if you have the country boundaries. Yeah, because like if you provide all the coordinates of all the boundaries, the area within the country is basically what you are looking for. Whereas with the city, you can do a radius based search, so you can look for points which are within specific radius around the city. For the country information, I have an open source library which gives me the coordinates for the boundaries. Whereas for the cities, I have a data set which has like 40,000 biggest cities in the world from simple maps. And additionally, I also get some images so that I might remember the pages or like the places from the images. And for the images, I'm just using like a public images from Flickr. They have an API which allows you to search for images based around a GPS coordinate. Yeah. Okay, let's get quickly into the demo and let's see what we are trying to do. So like you can specify like what you're interested in. So let's go to the countries demo. So let's go to some country like Austria, and let's also show some images. So now you see that like there were 1750 data points that were found in Austria. So there are like 1750 check-ins, for example, inside Austria in my data set. And if you go through this location data, you see that most of these data points belong within the country. Yeah. So there might be like 1 or 2 points that might be outside, but they are like really close to the boundary. That, yeah, you also have like a Wikipedia page if you want to know more information about the country, and you also have some images, like for example, I think this is Vienna, but yeah. So you have some images which are based on the data, on the GPS coordinates that were found in your data set. We can also do like another country, like for example Germany, which has a lot more points. So I'm just disabling images because it's much faster. The images, loading the images take a bit more time. Yeah, here you might see like what are some of the extremes or like the limits of full text search. Like, yeah, let's just wait for the query to finish execution. I mean, most of this delay is caused by the data processing in plotting the data, and also processing the data that is coming from full text search rather than the full text by itself. Yeah. So here again you see like there are like 2042 data points, and like if you look at it, most of these data points are again like quite accurate, except for like 1 or 2 points here. Yeah, with this, let's also go to see the other thing. So this is currently done using the Polygon search. So what I'm doing is like for each country, I'm getting the boundary points for this country and fitting them into the Polygon search. I'm just getting all the points, all the documents with location inside this area specified by the boundaries. Now let's go to cities. So cities, for the countries, I just have like the drop-down list which is pre-populated. Whereas for cities, what I do is like I have all these 41,000 cities in my database. And here, when you run the cities, like when you select the cities, all these cities are fetched from the database and populated here dynamically. And you can basically select some city that you're interested in. Let's see. Let's go to some islands. Yeah. So this is like some islands in Portugal. Yeah. So here what happens is you have like, when you select a city, you have like the coordinates of the city, and then you are looking for all the data points in your data set which are within 10-kilometer radius of it. And you can also load the images for it. Yeah, the images would take a bit of time because you need to fetch all these images from Flickr, and then, yeah. Yeah, I mean here you can see some images of Ponta Delgada. And you can also like see like here, like for example with 10-kilometer radius you have 1,300 points, whereas with let's say 25-kilometer radius you would have, yeah, more points, so 1,600 points. And like if you see, the images would also refresh. Yeah, so now you have different images. Similarly, you can also go to the other extreme, 50 kilometers, in which case, yeah, you see that like there were points on the other end of the island which are now captured, which were not there in the previous one. Now let's go to the other extreme, which is like 500 meters. So since, yeah, here also you have some data points, some 800 data points. Yeah. So this tells you like what all you can do with like these radius-based searches. Okay, now I would just like to go through show you the code snippets where we are using uh, the geospatial querying capabilities or the full text search. So most of it is like the application code, but the more relevant ones are like, for example, these are some functions that are used to get the code or get the pictures from location. Uh, but for example, this is the Polygon search. So all that you're doing is you have the cluster object and you are doing a search query where you specify the index, the full text search index that you are using, and you also provide the GeoPolygon query because this is a Polygon search, and you provide the polygon points. In this case, it would be a list of strings, and you are searching for geo field. And you also have the option to specify some limits, like here, for example, I have 800k data points, which is the limit. And I'm also fetching the fields timestamp and geo from these documents that match the criteria. And you are in the end just returning all these results. So one thing which you might not realize is this limit is set to 10,000 by default, but you can always increase it by adjusting the search parameters. This is the function that is doing the search by radius. So in this case, it's quite similar to the other one, except that here you use geodistance query and you provide a radius, and you have a location which is just a point, which is a longitude and latitude, and the rest of it is similar. So here also you have limits for the search options and the fields, and you can also sort it based on the geo distance. So what this does is it will sort all the points based on the distance from this point. Yeah, I would also just cover like the two other queries that we do here, which are normal queries, not full text search per se. But here you are getting all the cities in the database. Yeah. And this is the query which you are using to get like the latitude and longitude for a city from the database based on the city. So both these queries have indexes defined in the database to make them fast. Yeah, I mean the rest of it is just mostly passing the information about the boundaries of the country. Yeah, from the library. Yeah, and yeah, here you have like the different search radius. Yeah, and most of the rest is showing the images and plotting it on a map. I would also just show you like how the documents are in the database. So like for example, this is the same thing that we saw earlier, just in the database. Yeah, so this is the cities. So the cities have like a bit more features. So here you see latitude and longitude and population and other things. So the indexes, like, yeah, this is the index that you use to query for the latitude and longitude for a city. Whereas, yeah, yeah, this is the full text search. So here, yeah, this is the same thing that we saw before in the image, yes, except that this time it's, yeah, shown in the database, and here you can see like the complete definition of the index. Yeah, with that, yeah, I'm mostly done, and like all the code used in this demo is available on my GitHub page or GitHub account, so you can use this, try it with your data. Yeah, and yeah, if you find this useful, just drop me a message about your experiences with Couchbase and geospatial querying. And with that, I'm done. Thanks for catching this talk, and hope you enjoy the rest of Couchbase Connect. Thanks.